student who might be looked at several different ways by the authorities here. So there's really no news there, except
I'm assuming by 5:15, it's very unlikely that the parents have yet been contacted. It's possible, but not necessarily the case. And we also have a Times reporter who's waiting to hear from us.
At this point, we've agreed on 2 points of fact: the death of a student having occurred at the University Village, and I think that's our message at this point.
And I think anything beyond that wouldn't be releasable at all.
Right. So those two things may be said, and maybe that's the notice that Wes is going to craft, and that's all we can say to the Times.
For our own notification to campus and for safety, how long would it take until we were absolutely sure that it wasn't a murder, or, you know, would the coroner be able to determine that within a reasonable
Well,
time?
each case is different. I mean, you could have, say, somebody was poisoned, they would have no evidence whatsoever. A lot of this sometimes requires an autopsy, sometimes it requires an autopsy and, you know, chemical examinations, you know, things like that take a while in order to determine. So it could be natural, it could be, that's why I was saying that based on the information we have, it didn't describe anything that was more obvious, gruesome type thing. So at this point, it's really kind of unknown. We're kind of...
And we don't know that it was a crime.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, that's all. You're planning for the worst, but you don't assume that that's true.
Exactly.
At 5:25, a large group of people have assembled on the lawn of the University Village and are creating a traffic jam. Some of the people assembled appear to be students and some other other people who are attracted to the flashing lights of the ambulance and the police vehicles.
I think what we would do is, at this point, probably make a phone call to Hammond and see if we can get some assistance in terms of crowd control. Use some barricade tape, that sort of thing. Keep them back, not push them away, but just keep them back, and they can stand out there basically, as long as they're not impeding, you know, any of our investigation or duties that we need to perform as a campus. So
now, Chief, the building is still occupied, is that correct?
This building,
yeah. So there can be people coming and going as well.
There could be.
That's right.
If they're residents.
Right.
Would it make sense to break out the yellow vests for the RAs?
Yeah, I think that would be a very good idea.
And sort of let them know that when we have information, they will have information, and that anybody who has a question, the RAs can say, in effect, we know everything that the university knows, and here's what they've told us so far.
And even use them posted at the ends of both hallways, kind of monitoring those people that need to get into a room. And at this point, it's hard to say how much of the entire, it may encompass more than just the physical room, maybe you know, tape off part of the hallway, you know, based on a lot of...
That would be up to the Hammond police in the corner.
Would it be beneficial to call in some supplemental staff? You know, someone else that we could put yellow vests on for door access or crowd control, things of that sort?
I think it will depend on how many people we have as volunteers. Now, some RAs may not want to do this, may not be comfortable. Any volunteers for this student among the RAs? Raise your hands.
Maybe you're excluded.
Okay, well, a couple. I guess we may want to call in some staff as well. So,
we can call it the phone from student affairs.
well, Mike is operations and logistics. Mike, how do you want to handle that?
Steve and I have put a lesson learned in place. In the back of the squad, we'll have a toolbox that will carry the additional vests that we're talking about, and wherever the squad goes, they're readily accessible, so we don't have to run back and chase those down. I think putting them out to the RAs that want to work here would be fine. Mindy's suggestion, I think, is good. Familiar faces would be a very good thing to have, so it should be staffed with the residents, RAs, everybody's familiar with. So Rick Rittering or persons of that nature, I think, would be appropriate to help provide that direction.
You may want to call a couple of the ground staff as well, just to be here, we can use them as runners and such.
We can do that to help, yeah, and they would
Yeah,
do that to
outside.
put the tape in
Yeah,
and so forth.
not so much student interaction, but just.
That's correct. Yeah.
We may also look to utilize the RAs to encourage current residents that are here to call home and let parents know that they're here, they're okay, there's been a tragedy on campus, but they themselves are okay. Because that's the first question that will be in every parent's mind as soon as the news flashes across the screen.
Okay, and we've called Marcia to be here, and I assume that she's around
Marcia
all
will
the
be
time.
here.
Is there
Will be
anybody
here.
else that we need to?
Well, I think Kathy Tobin,
Okay.
maybe even Mohammed,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of the mentors have working relationships with students.
Yeah, and I know you were researching what groups and such the student, potential student, is in, and so if there's an advisor or something of that sort, others that may,
That's right.
contact, we may want to isolate out that group to provide additional comfort counseling assistance to.
And it may be that at this point we need to call in resources at Tri-City too. We may have found that we need more counselors on hand than we have available
Yeah.
on campus.
But I think we do need some people who can guide the students who need counseling through the crowds if, if there's a lot of milling around downstairs. So we may need more yellow vests.
I think we've identified 25 that we would have available.
All right, that's good.
And just to clarify too, the persons wearing the vest would be the persons that people would look for. They would more than likely have the same information that we have. They would be able to convey that. They would be able to provide the guidance. So when we don these things, that where we're moving with everybody is to look for the vest, and that'll be your source of information at that time.
5:30, Channel 2 News in Chicago has called West Lukosha's office to ask for a statement about the 2 dead bodies found in student housing.
I can confirm one body, that's all I'll confirm.
Okay.
Information, our facts haven't really changed at this point.
Yeah. And all external communication to the general world goes from Wes. And all liaison from our group to Wes goes through Mark. I always get nervous when Dean gets up again. 5:35, the Lake County coroner arrives at University Village, pronounces Ms. Liu as deceased. The cursory examination does not reveal trauma, and the cause of death will be determined by autopsy.
So, death has not been pronounced until 5:35. So we've been premature then.
Well, yeah, we're moving along here, so shows our experience at least. We're always thinking ahead. We're not waiting on that.
So the statement is that a student has died on campus, cause of death unknown. Is that right? No name to be released until parents have been notified. Family.
Can we put in no apparent trauma as within that statement? Or is that for the coroner to say?
Wouldn't be our call.
Now, once the family is notified, will that information come through Mark to me, or will it obviously come to it?
Probably come from maybe the coroner, unless he directs us to do it, which very likely he could, because, oftentimes what the coroner will do is just call the local police jurisdiction, or have the investigating jurisdiction call the local, if they're not from that particular area, and ask them to do a death notification.
So how will I follow up and get that information? I'll have to follow up
That
with the coroner myself.
depending on how it's done, he may direct us to go ahead, and since we're the source where we can find the next kin, he very well will direct us to do that.
That will go from the coroner to the chief,
Okay.
from the chief to this group, and from this group to you, and from you to Wes.
I think we'll need to work really closely too with Marcia, Gordon, and or others to see about the English understanding of the family that might be receiving this news. And if we need to have an interpreter standing by, we need to make sure that we're prepared to do that. And we also need to make sure that we're sensitive to cultural differences, because that can be very, very difficult in situations like these.